You've been lied to your entire life. They told you kindness wins. They told you loyalty is rewarded. They told you that if you're a good person, the world will treat you fairly. And you believed it. You smiled. You cared. You gave. And what did you get in return? Betrayal, disrespect, emotional manipulation. People took what you offered and walked away without looking back. You felt the sting. You questioned yourself. You wondered why it always happens to you. Here's the truth no one wants you to know. The world isn't fair. It never was. It never will be. The universe doesn't reward the kind. It rewards the cold, the detached, the strategic, the people who see emotion as a liability and remove it from the equation. While you were taught to feel, they were taught to take. While you were programmed to give, they were programmed to dominate. And the worst part? They knew you'd never catch on. They knew your emotions would keep you trapped. They knew warmth would make you predictable, controllable, weak. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't apologize. He laid it out raw. The prince who relies upon their words without having otherwise provided for their security is ruined. Translation: trust gets you destroyed. Emotion gets you exploited. Coldness keeps you alive. If you want to survive in a world designed to break you, you need to kill the part of you that feels. Not because you're cruel, because you're smart. Right now, you're standing at a crossroads. On one side is the version of you that still believes people care, that hopes for fairness, that thinks vulnerability is strength. On the other side is the version that sees reality for what it is, that understands power, that moves through life untouchable, unreactive, unreadable. The choice is yours. But understand this: if you stay warm in a cold world, you'll be eaten alive. If you choose coldness, you become the predator. Comment "I'm awake" if you're done being emotionally exploited. Let me know you're ready to step into this. Because once you see what I'm about to show you, there's no going back. Let's start with the lie, the one they've been feeding you since childhood. They told you emotions are what make you human, that caring deeply is noble, showing people your heart creates a connection. And on the surface, it sounds beautiful. It sounds right. But let me ask you something. How many times has your kindness been repaid with coldness? How many times has your loyalty been answered with betrayal? How many times have you given everything to someone who gave you nothing back? Every single time you trusted someone and got burned, you learned the lesson, but you ignored it. You told yourself they were the exception, that most people are good, that next time will be different. It never was, and it never will be, because the problem isn't them. The problem is you. Your warmth is a signal, a flashing sign that says, I can be used. And the people who run this world, they see that sign from miles away. They don't admire your compassion, they exploit it. Here's what they don't tell you in school, in church, in those feel-good motivational posts. Warmth is a trap. Society needs you to be soft, so you're easier to control. They need you to be emotional, so you're easier to manipulate. Think about it. Every system you're part of profits when you feel. Advertising makes you insecure, so you buy. Politics makes you angry, so you vote. Relationships keep you attached, so you stay. And you think it's love. You think it's a connection. You think it's real, but it's control. And the moment you stop feeling, you stop being controlled. The people at the top don't operate this way. CEOs don't cry over firings. Politicians don't lose sleep over lies. Winners don't let guilt stop their decisions. They've learned something you haven't. Emotion is expensive. It costs you time, energy, opportunities, power. And while you're sitting there feeling bad about setting a boundary, someone else is taking what should have been yours. They're getting the promotion, the respect, the relationship, the life, because they're cold enough to act without hesitation. Machiavelli saw this clearly. Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. He wasn't being cynical, he was being accurate. People want to believe, they want to trust, they want to feel, and that's exactly what makes them prey. If you operate the same way, you're in the same category. Vulnerable, exploitable, disposable. But the moment you stop needing emotional validation, you step into a different league. You stop being the victim. You become the variable no one can predict. Look at your own life. The people who hurt you the most were the ones you felt the most for. The friendships that drained you were the ones where you cared too much. The relationships that destroyed you were the ones where you gave everything. And every time, you thought it was bad luck, bad timing, bad people. But it wasn't. It was a bad strategy. You played the game with your heart on your sleeve, and they played it with a calculator. They didn't love harder, they calculated better. And you lost because you refused to see it. This isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming smart. It's about understanding that warmth without strategy is suicide. Compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. Loyalty without reciprocity is slavery. You don't owe the world your softness. You don't owe anyone access to your emotions. The only thing you owe yourself is protection. And coldness, that's the armor. Now let's talk about the man who decoded all of this centuries before you were born. Niccolo Machiavelli. A name that makes people uncomfortable. A philosophy that makes people squirm. Because Machiavelli didn't lie, he didn't preach morality. He described reality, and reality is brutal. He spent his life watching kingdoms rise and fall. He studied power, he dissected betrayal, he understood human nature at its core. And his conclusion? The world rewards the cold. He wrote one sentence that changes everything if you really hear it. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Read that again. Fear is more reliable than love because love is conditional. It fades, it changes, it gets withdrawn the moment you stop performing. But fear is permanent. It doesn't require you to be likable. It doesn't demand you bend. Fear means respect, distance, control. And that's the currency of power. You've been conditioned to believe the opposite, that being loved is the goal, that people are choosing you means you've won. But think about the people who've loved you. How many stayed when you stopped serving their needs? How many respected your boundaries when it inconvenienced them? How many fought for you the way you fought for them? Love is transactional. It's a trade. You give them comfort, validation, energy, and in return they stay. Until they don't. Until someone else offers more. Until you're no longer useful. And then, the love evaporates like it was never there. Fear doesn't work that way. When people fear you, they think twice before disrespecting you. They calculate before crossing you. They weigh the cost of betrayal. And most of the time, they don't even try. Not because you're violent, not because you're aggressive, but because you're unpredictable, detached, unreadable. They don't know what you'll do. They don't know what you're thinking, and that uncertainty keeps them in line. Machiavelli also said this, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." This is the key to coldness. You control the image. You decide what people see. You never show your full hand. The moment you reveal your emotions, you reveal your weaknesses. The moment you show desperation, you lose leverage. The moment you let someone know they matter to you, they own you. But when you stay cold, when you stay silent, when you stay detached, they can't touch you, they can't predict you, and they can't control you. Let's apply this to real life. Think about the last argument you had. The last time someone disrespected you. What did you do? You probably reacted. You defended yourself. You explained. You justified. And what happened? They pushed harder. Because your reaction told them they got to you. It told them where to aim next time. But imagine if you'd said nothing, if you'd just stared, if you'd stayed silent and let them drown in their own discomfort. The power would have shifted instantly. Because silence is dominance. Silence is control. Silence is cold. Machiavelli understood that the worst thing you can do is reveal your strategy. Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. This doesn't mean you lie, it means you calculate. You play the long game. You let people think they have the upper hand while you position yourself 3 steps ahead. The warm make their moves obvious. The cold makes theirs invisible. And by the time anyone realizes what happened, it's already over. Here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't punish the cold. It punishes the emotional. You get fired because you couldn't control your reaction. You lose relationships because you were too available. You get disrespected because you showed too much. And every time, you tell yourself the world is cruel. But the world isn't cruel, it's strategic. And if you want to win, you need to be more strategic than the game itself. This isn't about becoming a villain, it's about becoming untouchable. It's about building a psychological fortress where nothing gets in unless you allow it. It's about training yourself to see people as they are, not as you want them to be. And most importantly, it's about understanding that detachment isn't weakness. It's the ultimate power move. So, how do you actually become emotionless? How do you kill the part of you that reacts, that cares too much, that breaks when people push? It's not about shutting down, it's about rewiring. It's about training your mind to stop treating emotions as truth and start treating them as data. Because that's all they are. Signals, noise, information that tries to hijack your decisions, and the moment you learn to observe them instead of obeying them, you take back control. Step 1. Observe without absorbing. Every time you feel something, pause. Don't react, don't speak, don't move. Just watch the emotion like it's happening to someone else. Name it. I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling fear. The second you name it, you separate from it. It's no longer you. It's just a response. And responses can be controlled. This is the foundation of coldness. You don't stop feeling. You stop letting feelings dictate your actions. Most people skip this step. Something happens, they feel, they react. It's automatic, predictable, weak. But when you train yourself to pause, you insert space between stimulus and response. That space is power. In that 1 second you decide, do I engage? Do I walk away? Do I let this person see that they affected me? Or do I stay stone cold and let them wander? The cold chose silence, the cold chose observation, and the cold always wins because they never give anything away. Step 2. Stop seeking validation. Every time you need someone to approve of you, you hand them leverage. Every time you explain yourself, you weaken your position. Every time you need to be understood, you make yourself dependent on their perception, and that dependence is a leash. It keeps you in control, predictable, small. The cold doesn't explain, they don't justify, they don't perform for approval. They exist, they decide, they move. And if you don't like it, that's your problem, not theirs. This one hits deep because most of you were raised to seek approval. Your parents praised you when you behaved. Teachers rewarded compliance. Society conditioned you to believe acceptance equals worth. But acceptance is a drug, and like any drug, it controls you. It makes you bend. It makes you shrink. It makes you sacrifice your truth for someone else's comfort. And the saddest part? Even when you get their approval, it's temporary. They'll withdraw it the moment you stop performing. So why chase it at all? The cold operates differently. They validate themselves. They define their own worth. They don't need your applause. They don't need your agreement. And because of that, they can't be manipulated. You can't guilt them. You can't shame them. You can't leverage their need for acceptance because they don't have that need. They've killed it, and that's what makes them untouchable. Step 3. Eliminate emotional dependence. Look at the people in your life. Who do you need? Who do you think about constantly? Who has the power to ruin your day with one sentence? Those people own you, not because they're special, because you gave them access. You made them necessary. And now you're trapped. The cold doesn't trap itself. They care strategically, they invest selectively, and they never ever make someone irreplaceable. Here's the exercise. Pick someone you're too attached to, someone whose opinion matters too much, someone you'd feel lost without. Now imagine they disappeared tomorrow, blocked you, left, died. How would you survive? What would you do? The answer to that question is your freedom. Because once you know you'd survive without them, they lose power. You stop clinging, you stop begging, you stop bending, and suddenly the dynamic shifts. They start chasing, Because the cold is magnetic, not because they're perfect, because they're unavailable. Step 4. Refuse to react to disrespect. This is where most people fail. Someone insults you, undermines you, dismisses you, and you explode, you defend, you argue, you prove them wrong, and in doing so, you prove them right. Because your reaction shows they got to you, it shows they matter, it shows you're emotional, weak, controllable. The cold doesn't react. They remember, they calculate, and they move in silence, days later, weeks later, months later. When the other person has forgotten, the cold strike. Not out of revenge, out of strategy. Machiavelli said, men ought either to be indulged or utterly destroyed. He wasn't advocating violence, he was teaching precision. If someone disrespects you and you do nothing, you look weak. If you overreact, you look unhinged. But if you stay cold, detached, and calculated, you become dangerous. You become someone they'll never cross again. Not because you yelled, because you made them wonder what you're capable of. This is the transformation, from reactive to strategic, from emotional to observant, from desperate to detached. It's not easy. Your brain will fight it. Your conditioning will resist it. Society will call you cold, heartless, and selfish. Let them. Because while they're judging, you'll be winning. While they're feeling, you'll be moving. And while they're breaking, you'll be untouchable. Now we go deeper, into the 8 cold laws, the principles that separate the dominated from the dominant, the exploited by the untouchable. These aren't suggestions, they're commands. And if you follow them, you don't just survive, you rise. Law 1. Never reveal your full hand. The moment people know everything about you, they know how to break you. They know what you want, what you fear, what you love, and they'll use it. The cold shares selectively. They let people see versions of them, never the whole picture. You think you know them, you don't. And that gap between what you think and what's real, that's their power. Think about the last time you overshared. Maybe you told someone your dreams, your insecurities, your plans, and what happened? They either used it against you or stopped respecting you. Because vulnerability without strategy is suicide. The cold reveals nothing unless it serves them. They don't trust easily. They don't open up quickly. And because of that, people chase them. People want access, and the council decides who gets it. Law 2. Detach from outcomes. You lose power the moment you need a specific result. The job, the relationship, the approval, the validation. Need creates desperation, and desperation makes you bend, compromise, beg. The cold doesn't need anything. They prefer, they desire, but they don't need. And that detachment makes them fearless. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, fine. They'll move to the next option without breaking. That's the energy that wins. Most of you are playing life like you only get one shot. One chance at the relationship. One opportunity at the job. One moment to prove yourself. And that mindset destroys you. Because when you think it's your only chance, you'll sacrifice anything to get it. Your boundaries, your dignity, your worth. But the cold knows something you don't. There's always another option, another person, another opportunity. And when you know that, you stop chasing. You start attracting. Because scarcity repels, abundance attracts. Law 3. Control through silence. Words are liabilities. The more you say, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the more they control you. The cold speaks less, they listen more, and when they do speak, every word is intentional, calculated, designed to position, not to explain. Silence makes people uncomfortable. It makes them overcompensate, overshare, and while they're talking, you're learning, you're gathering data, you're finding weaknesses, and they have no idea. Here's the test. Next time someone asks you a personal question, say nothing. Just look at them. Let the silence hang. Watch them squirm. Watch them fill the gap. You'll be amazed, how much people reveal when you stop talking. Because silence is pressure, it's dominance, it's control, and the cold wield it like a weapon. Law 4. Emotional invisibility is survival. The moment people see what you feel, they know how to hurt you. They know what buttons to push, what words to say, what situations to create. But when your face shows nothing, when your tone stays flat, when your energy remains neutral, they're lost. They can't manipulate what they can't read. And that makes you dangerous. Practice this everywhere, in arguments, in negotiations, in confrontations. Don't smile when you're happy. Don't frown when you're upset. Don't flinch when they attack. Stay neutral. Stay cold. Let them guess. Let them wonder. And watch how the power shifts. Because the person who cares less always wins. And when they can't tell if you care at all, you're untouchable. Law 5. Use distance as leverage. People value what they can't have. The moment you're always available, you lose value. The moment you're hard to reach, you become magnetic. The cold doesn't chase. They don't overtext. They don't explain their absence. They disappear and reappear on their own terms. And every time they do, people want them more. Because scarcity creates demand. And the cold understands this instinctively. You think being available makes people appreciate you. It doesn't. It makes them take you for granted. It makes them assume you'll always be there. And once they assume that, they stop trying, they stop valuing, they stop respecting. But when you pull back, when you create space, suddenly you matter again. Not because you changed, because you controlled access. Law 6. Treat betrayal as data, not pain. People will betray you. It's not personal, it's predictable. They act in their own interest, always. And the moment you expect loyalty, you set yourself up for devastation. The cold doesn't expect loyalty. They observe behavior. And when someone shows you who they are, the cold don't cry. They calculate, they adjust. They remove the liability. No drama, no emotion, just strategy. This is the shift that breaks most people. Because betrayal hurts. It feels personal. It feels like rejection. But it's not. It's information. It's data telling you that the person isn't aligned with your goals. And instead of mourning the relationship, the cold audit it. What did I gain? What did I lose? Was this person ever truly valuable? And most of the time the answer is no. They were an illusion. And illusions don't deserve your energy. Law 7. Build fear through unpredictability. When people know what you'll do, they can plan around you, they can test you, they can push boundaries. But when you're unpredictable, when do your reactions vary? When they never know if you'll forgive or destroy? They stay cautious, they stay respectful, they stay afraid. And fear is the most reliable form of control. You don't need to be aggressive, you just need to be inconsistent. Sometimes you let things slide, sometimes you don't, sometimes you're warm, sometimes you're ice. They never know which version they'll get. And that uncertainty keeps them walking on eggshells, because humans fear what they can't predict, and the cold exploit that fear ruthlessly. Law 8. Operate from self-interest. Always. This is the hardest law because you've been conditioned to believe self-interest is selfish. It's not. It's survival. Every decision you make should serve you first, not in a destructive way, in a strategic way. Does this relationship benefit me? Does this job align with my goals? Does this person add value or drain energy? The cold asks these questions constantly, and when the answer is no, they move. No guilt, no hesitation, just clarity. The warm sacrifice themselves for others and call it noble. The cold protect themselves first and call it smart. And guess who thrives? Guess who builds the life they want? Guess who earns respect? The cold. Always the cold. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. And you can't lead from a position of depletion. Self-interest isn't evil, it's intelligent. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you rise. Let's talk about relationships. The place where most of you bleed out emotionally. Because you think love is supposed to be pure. You think friendship is supposed to be loyal. You think people should care the way you care. And that belief destroys you. Because relationships aren't what you think they are. They're transactions, exchanges, agreements. And the moment you stop providing value, they dissolve. The cold understands this. The warm get blindsided by it. Affection is leverage. Every time you show someone how much they mean to you, you give them power. The power to withdraw, to manipulate, to demand. And they will, not because they're evil, because they're human. People take what they can get. And if you keep giving without boundaries, they'll keep taking without guilt. That's not cruelty, that's nature. And the cold learn to respect nature instead of presenting it. Think about your closest relationships, the ones you die for. Now ask yourself, would they die for you? Would they sacrifice the way you have? Would they fight for you the way you fought for them? Most of the time the answer is no, and that realization is devastating, but it's also liberating. Because once you see relationships for what they are, you stop over-investing. You stop giving more than you receive. You stop making people priorities who treat you like options. The cold doesn't fall in love. They choose partners strategically. They assess compatibility. They evaluate behavior. They test loyalty. And if someone doesn't meet the standard, they walk. No second chances. No hoping they'll change. No romanticizing potential. Just cold, hard assessment. Does this person add value? Do they respect boundaries? Do they reciprocate effort? If the answer is no, they're gone. And the cold doesn't lose sleep over it. This doesn't mean you can't connect. It means you connect with eyes open. You see people as they are, not as you want them to be. You notice patterns. You track behavior. You measure reciprocity. And when someone consistently shows you they don't care, you believe them. You don't make excuses. You don't justify their disrespect. You just remove access, because the cold protects their energy like it's the most valuable resource they have. Because it is. Friendship works the same way. You think your friends are your tribe, your people, your support system. But how many of them show up when you're not fun anymore? How many calls when you're struggling? How many celebrate your wins without jealousy? Most friendships are proximity-based convenience. You're useful, entertaining, available. And the moment you stop being those things, the friendship fades. The cold doesn't mourn those losses, they expect them. Here's the shift. Stop being the person who's always there. Stop being the one who always reaches out. Stop being the one who always forgives. Pull back. Observe. See who comes looking. See who notices. See who actually values you beyond what you provide. Most people won't pass that test. And that's not sad, that's clarity. Because you're not here to be everyone's emotional support system. You're here to build a life where only the worthy get access. The cold also understands that emotional distance creates attraction. The moment you're too available, people lose interest. They stop chasing, they stop trying, they assume you'll always be there. But when you create space, when do you become hard to reach? When do you stop responding immediately? Suddenly, you matter again. People want what's scarce, and the cold makes itself scarce intentionally. Not to play games, to maintain value. This applies to romantic relationships, especially. You think showing your partner you love them every second builds connection. It doesn't. It builds dependency, familiarity, boredom. But when you pull back, when do you have your own life? When you're not constantly available. They remember why they wanted you, because desire requires distance, mystery, unpredictability, and the cold never fully reveals itself. Ever. The brutal truth about relationships is this: no one is loyal, they're loyal to how you make them feel. The moment that feeling changes, so does their loyalty. And instead of being devastated by that, the cold accept it. They don't expect permanence. They don't expect unconditional love. They understand that every relationship is conditional, and they make sure the conditions always favor them. Now let's talk about power games. The social battlefield where most of you get destroyed without even realizing you're in a war. Because you think people are just being friendly, just networking, just having conversations. But every interaction is a test. Every conversation is a positioning game, and the warm get played because they don't see it coming. The cold always sees it. Power isn't about titles, it's not about money, it's not about authority. Power is psychological. It's the ability to make people act without force, to make them respect you without demanding it, to make them fear you without threatening. And that power comes from one thing: composure, the ability to stay cold when everyone around you is hot, the ability to stay silent when they're loud, the ability to stay still when they're chaotic. Watch the people who dominate rooms. They don't talk the most, they don't try the hardest, they just exist with a different energy, calm, detached, unreadable, and that energy creates space. People defer to them, people wait for their opinion, people measure their own words based on how that person might react. That's not charisma, that's coldness, that's power. Machiavelli said, "It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles." Translation: your position means nothing if you're weak. A CEO who begs for approval has no power. An emotional leader has no respect. But someone with no title who carries themselves with cold confidence, they run the room. Because power is about perception, and perception is about control, and control starts with controlling yourself. Let's talk about workplace dynamics. Most of you think success is about working hard, being liked, being a team player, and you're confused when the cold, detached person gets promoted instead of you. Here's why. Workplaces are dominance hierarchies. The person who appears most competent, most composed, and most detached wins. Not the hardest worker, not the nicest person, the coldest. When you're too friendly at work, you're seen as weak. When you explain too much, you're seen as insecure. When you seek approval from your boss, you're seen as desperate. But when you show up, do your work, and show zero emotional investment in what anyone thinks, you're seen as powerful, you're seen as confident, you're seen as someone who doesn't need this job. And that's the person they promote, because they fear losing you. The cold doesn't play office politics. They don't gossip, they don't take sides, they observe, they collect information. And when the time is right, they make calculated moves. They align with power, not popularity. They form alliances that serve long-term goals, not short-term comfort. And they never, ever reveal their strategy. They let others fight for scraps while they position for the throne. Here's the principle. In any social environment, there are players and there are pieces. Players control the board. Pieces get moved, the warm pieces. They react to other people's moves. They respond to drama. They get pulled into conflicts. They waste energy defending themselves. The cold are players. They initiate. They set the frame. They control narratives. And they never let anyone see them sweat. Status isn't about being loud. It's about being untouchable. The person who doesn't react to disrespect has a higher status than the person who defends themselves. The person who doesn't explain has a higher status than the person who justifies. The person who doesn't seek approval has a higher status than the person who performs. Because high-status people don't need to prove anything, they just are. And the cold cultivates that energy ruthlessly. Another principle: control the social temperature. When everyone's emotional, you stay calm. When everyone's panicking, you stay relaxed. When everyone's arguing, you stay silent. Because the person who controls their emotions controls the room. People look to you for cues. They mirror your energy. And if your energy is cold, composed, and detached, theirs becomes uncertain, and uncertainty is control. The cold also understands that fear is more powerful than love in power dynamics. You can be liked and still be disrespected. You can be friendly and still be ignored. But if people fear crossing you, if they know there are consequences for disrespect, they treat you differently. They weigh their words. They measure their actions. And you don't have to threaten anyone. You just have to be the kind of person who doesn't tolerate disrespect, ever. And that reputation does the work for you. Let me give you a scenario. Someone undermines you in a meeting. Everyone's watching. What do? The warm defend themselves. They explain, they argue, and they look weak. The cold does nothing. They stare. They let the silence hang. And later, in private, they handle it. They remove support. They withdraw a resource. They make a calculated move that the other person never sees coming. And they never do it again. That's power. That's control. That's coldness. Now let's talk about betrayal. The thing that breaks most people. The thing that makes you question humanity. The thing that turns you bitter, unless you're cold. Because the cold doesn't get broken by betrayal. They expect it. They prepare for it. And when it happens, they use it. Betrayal isn't personal. It's predictable. People act in their own interest, always. And when your interest conflicts with theirs, they choose themselves. Not because they hate you, because they love themselves more. And the moment you understand that, betrayal stops hurting. It becomes data, information, a signal that this person is a liability. And liabilities get removed, not with emotion, with precision. Machiavelli said, "Men are so simple and yield so readily to the desires of the moment that he who will trick will always find another who will suffer to be tricked." Translation: people are predictable, they're emotional, they're weak. And if you expect them to act with honor, you're the fool. The cold doesn't expect honor. They observe behavior, and behavior always reveals intent. Here's the shift. Stop being devastated when someone betrays you. Stop asking why. Stop trying to understand. They did it because it served them. That's the only reason you need. And instead of crying about it, weaponize it. How? By removing emotional attachment, by cutting them off completely, by showing zero reaction, by moving forward like they never existed. That coldness will haunt them more than any revenge ever could. The warm try to get closure. They confront the person. They demand explanations. They want apologies. And all of that gives the betrayer power. It shows you're hurt. It shows they mattered. It shows they got to you. But the cold? They ghost. They disappear. They move on without a word. And that silence is louder than any confrontation. Because it says, "You're not even worth my energy." That's dominance. Here's another layer. When someone betrays you, they expect a reaction. They expect anger, sadness, drama. And when you give them nothing, when you stay composed and detached, it confuses them. It makes them question themselves. It makes them wonder if they mattered at all. And that psychological warfare is far more powerful than any emotional outburst. Because the cold doesn't fight with emotions. They fight with absence. You also need to understand this. Betrayal is a test. It tests whether you'll crumble or adapt, whether you'll stay bitter or get better, whether you'll remain a victim or become a strategist. Most people fail this test. They stay angry. They replay the betrayal over and over. They let it poison every future relationship. But the cold pass the test. They learn. They adjust. They remove the weak link and keep building. And they never make the same mistake twice. Let me give you a framework. When someone betrays you, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. Did I give them too much access? 2. Did I ignore the red flags? 3. Did I expect loyalty where none was earned? Most of the time, the answer to all 3 is yes, and that's not their fault. That's yours. The cold takes responsibility, not for the betrayal, for allowing the conditions that made it possible, and they fix those conditions immediately. Here's the ultimate power move. Use betrayal as fuel. Let it sharpen you. Let it teach you who to trust and who to remove. Let it train you to detach faster, to observe deeper, to protect harder. Every betrayal is a lesson in human nature, and the more lessons you learn, the more untouchable you become. Because you stop expecting people to be good. You just expect them to be human. And humans are predictable. One more thing, don't seek revenge. Revenge is emotional. It's reactive. It's weak. The cold doesn't need revenge. They just remove the person from their life and move forward. That's the punishment. Being forgotten, being irrelevant, being erased from your world like they never existed. And trust me, that cuts deeper than any revenge plot ever could, because it says, you never mattered enough for me to waste energy on you. That's cold. That's power. That's mastery. Let's talk about mastery, the final level. The point where coldness isn't something you do, it's something you are. Where detachment isn't a strategy, it's your operating system. Where emotions don't control you because you've trained them out of relevance. This is where most people never reach, because it requires discipline, repetition, and a willingness to let go of everything that made you weak. Mastery means becoming unreactive, permanently. Nothing shakes you, not insults, not rejection, not betrayal, not loss. You observe it all from a distance. You process it as data. You adjust your strategy, and you keep moving, because the cold doesn't break. They don't pause, they don't spiral, they recalibrate and execute. That's the difference. That's the edge. To get here, you need to rewire how you process the world. Every situation you face is now a test, not of your emotions, of your composure. Can you stay silent when attacked? Can you walk away when disrespected? Can you remain detached when someone tries to pull you in? If you can, you're building the armor. If you can't, you're still vulnerable. And vulnerability is the enemy of power. Next level, become unreadable. Your face shows nothing. Your voice reveals nothing. Your body language betrays nothing. People should look at you and have no idea what you're thinking, no idea what you're feeling, no idea what you'll do next. This isn't about being robotic. It's about being in control, because the moment people can read you, they can manipulate you, and the cold refuses to be manipulated. Train this everywhere. In conversations, keep your expression neutral. In conflicts, keep your tone flat. In negotiations, keep your interest hidden. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let them make assumptions that are probably wrong, because the less they know, the more power you have. And power is the only thing that matters in a game where everyone's trying to take from you. Mastery also means relationships become strategic, not emotional. You don't date because you're lonely. You choose partners because they align with your vision. You don't keep friends because of history. You maintain connections because they add value. This sounds cold because it is. But it's also smart, because your energy is finite, your time is finite, and wasting either on people who don't reciprocate is self-destruction. The cold treats relationships like investments. They measure returns, they track behavior, they assess alignment, and when the return is negative, they divest. No hard feelings, no resentment. Just a calculated decision that this person is no longer worth the investment, and they move that energy to someone who is. That's not cruelty, that's intelligence. Here's another principle. Use adversity as training. Every difficult situation is a repetition in the gym of coldness. Someone disrespects you, training. Someone betrays you, training. Doesn't something go your way? Training. The cold doesn't see problems. They see opportunities to get colder, harder, sharper. And every time they face adversity without breaking, they level up. Most people avoid discomfort. They run from pain. They seek safety. And that's why they stay weak. Because strength isn't built in comfort. It's built in the moments when you want to react but don't, when you want to explode but stay silent, when you want to quit but keep moving. Those moments are the forge, and the cold walk into them willingly. You also need to cultivate a reputation, not of cruelty, of capability. People should know that crossing you has consequences, not because you're loud about it, because you're consistent. You never let disrespect slide, you never tolerate betrayal, you never accept mediocrity, and over time, that consistency builds a presence, an energy, a reputation that precedes you, and that reputation protects you. The cold also understands that mastery is lonely, because most people can't operate at this level. They're too emotional, too needy, too reactive, and you can't bring them with you. You'll have fewer friends, fewer close relationships, more distance, but you'll also have more power, more respect, more control over your life. And that trade is always worth it, because loneliness is temporary, weakness is permanent. One final piece. Mastery means you stop explaining yourself to anyone. You make decisions, you execute, and if people don't like it, That's irrelevant. You don't need their approval, you don't need their understanding, you just need your own clarity. And when you operate from that place, nothing can stop you, because you're no longer playing their game, you're playing yours. And in your game, you make the rules. Now we reach the end. The final identity shift. The moment when you decide who you're going to be. Are you going to stay warm in a cold world and keep getting destroyed? Or are you going to become cold and dominant? This isn't a phase. This isn't a mood. This is a permanent transformation. You're not learning coldness so you can go back to being emotional when it's convenient. You're learning it so you never go back. Because going back means going back to being prey. And you've been prey long enough. Let me paint the picture of who you're becoming. You walk into a room and people feel your presence before you speak. You don't seek attention, but you command it. You don't explain yourself, but people respect you. You don't react, but people fear testing you. You've become the variable no one can predict, the person no one can break, the player everyone watches but no one understands. That's the cold identity. That's the throne. Machiavelli said, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." You're choosing fear, not because you want to hurt people, because you want to be untouchable. You want people to think twice before disrespecting you. You want them to weigh the cost of crossing you, and you want them to choose not to. That's power. That's the life you're claiming. From this moment forward, you operate differently. You don't chase, you attract, you don't beg, you command, you don't explain, you decide, you don't react. You calculate, and every single day you practice this until it's automatic, until coldness isn't something you think about, it's just who you are. This identity will cost you. It'll cost you people who can't handle your detachment. It'll cost you relationships built on your old weakness. It'll cost you the version of yourself that needed approval. But what you gain is infinitely more valuable. You gain control, respect, power. And most importantly, you gain freedom. Freedom from manipulation, from exploitation, from the emotional traps that kept you small. You're not going to be liked by everyone. Good. Likability is overrated. You're going to be respected, feared, remembered. And that's what matters. Because the warm are forgotten the moment they stop being useful. But the cold? The coast is never forgotten. Their presence lingers. Their impact lasts. Their legend grows. Because people don't forget the ones who couldn't be controlled. Here's your final command. Commit. Right now. In this moment. Decide that you're done being warm. Done being soft. Done being exploited. Decide that from this day forward, you're cold. You're detached. You're strategic. And you're untouchable. That decision changes everything. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now. Because the moment you commit, the transformation begins. Comment "I rise" if you're claiming this identity. Let me know you're not just watching this. You're becoming it. You're stepping into the cold. You're taking the throne. And you're never going back. The weak will judge you. Let them. The emotional will call you heartless. Let them. The exploiters will fear you. Good. Because you're no longer playing their game. You're playing yours. And in your game, you're not the prey. You're the apex predator. You're not the victim. You're the architect. You're not the pawn. You're the king. This is who you are now. Cold, calculated, untouchable, unreactive, unreadable, unstoppable. The world tried to break you. It failed. Now you're the one who breaks the game. You don't follow the rules. You rewrite them. You don't ask for permission. You take what's yours. And you don't apologize for it, because the cold doesn't apologize. They dominate. Machiavelli spent his life teaching princes how to hold power, but this isn't for princes. This is for you. The person who was overlooked, betrayed, used, broken. This is your blueprint, your armor, your weapon. And if you use it, you don't just survive, you conquer. You don't just endure, you reign. And the world that once crushed you, it kneels. Welcome to the cold. Welcome to power. Welcome to the version of yourself that no one can touch. Now rise. And never look back.